despite the continuing destruction being inflicted on Nigeria by the COVID-19 pandemic. Political parties in the country have been ramping up preparations for governorship elections in Edo and Ondo states. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has set the ball rolling by declaring its resolve to hold the polls. In Edo State, Nigeria's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, has been battling to put down a ruinous personality clash between the current governor, Godwin Obaseki, and his predecessor, a situation that some analysts are already saying could be a potential game changer now and when the governorship poll is held on September 19, 2020. We'll be trying to find out what measures, if there are any, the APC has put in place to hold its primaries without contravening the guidelines on social distancing as stipulated by the Center for Disease Control and the World Health Organization. And of course, also the modalities for engagement with INEC, as well as the party at the national level, members of whom are expected to be on the ground to monitor the process. And then, of course, expectations about intra-party squabble and how that could affect the party's chances in Edo State. And if the election fails to hold, given the sheer structural impediments that litter the route to it, what then happens? These and more are the issues we'll be exploring during our conversation now with Anselm Ojezua, Chairman of Progressives Congress, Edo State. Anselm Ojezua, good morning and welcome to the morning show. It's good to have you here.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, quickly, let's clarify something in order to contextualize our conversation. I'm aware that there are factions in Edo State APC. We introduce you as chairman of the All Progressives Congress, but I know that there is also Honorable Matthew Udurenyewe, who is also reported as chairman of the All Progressives Congress in Edo State. Will it be right to introduce you more appropriately as factional chairman of the APC in Edo State?
It would be very wrong for you to refer to me as a factional chairman. I contested the position of chairman in a congress that took place in 2018, and I was actually elected by consensus. The impostor who parades himself as chairman is one retired Colonel Imuse, not Edori Ekeme. Edori Ekeme is a friend of mine, he's a leader of our party, and he's with us on this journey. Imuse was elected as a state vice chairman, and perhaps his ambition, coupled with his, he has allowed himself to be used as a tool by Adams Oshomole, just to create the impression that there's a faction. The truth about it is that substantially, APC is one in Edo State, and it is fully together. Substantially, we are on track. Imuse does not have an office in Benin. He does not have members of the executive with him. He has nothing in Edo State. So the truth about it is that in actual fact, there is only one APC in Edo, and that is the one that I head as state chairman.
Mr. Ojezua, thank you for that clarification. And now on to today's topic. INEC have said that the elections this year in Edo and Ondo states, of course, are going to go ahead. And based on that, APC has now fixed dates for the Edo governorship primaries. We would like to find out more with regards to guidelines that you plan on putting in place, or your party plans on putting in place for these processes, the primaries, the screening of aspirants, of course, given the pandemic. Would you like to tell us more?
Yeah, I saw the program that was published both by INEC and by the National Working Committee of the party, which has set the ball rolling. Pursuant to that, the State Executive Committee of the party in Edo State is meeting this afternoon to take a decision as to the mode of primaries that we will prefer. And then we will subsequently communicate with the National Working Committee in the hope that they will then put the machinery in motion to come and conduct it in Edo State. You know that at this point in time, we are in a very delicate situation with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so whatever we recommend will have in mind the need to be sensitive to that situation.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, INEC is determined, we may even use the word adamant, to go ahead, not just with the elections in Edo and Ondo State this year, the governorship elections. It's also saying that it will conduct by-elections in about 9 states. And I guess the latest news is that it will come up with guidelines. Now, INEC's position is based on the fact that the law does not allow it any room for maneuver. But has there been any consultation between INEC and stakeholders in Edo State or Ondo State or nationally that you are aware of?
Apart from the public statements that INEC has made, we have not had any interaction. Well, you know, I mentioned earlier about the pandemic. There's this issue of having close meetings with other people. If INEC were to call a meeting of all the political parties, perhaps the only way they can do that would be by way of a virtual interaction, such as the one that we are engaging in right now. But as at now, we haven't heard from them, except for the fact that they have set the ball rolling, which is what they need to do. There is nothing we have other than what has been published.
Okay, and you said that a decision on the mode of the primaries or preferral mode of the primaries is being taken today. What ideas have been brought to the table regarding this?
Well, you know, the constitution of our party gives us options, either to go for direct primaries, in which case all the members of the party will participate, or indirect primaries, in which case the officers of the party, together with elected persons and some statutory delegates to the National Convention, will together go to a venue and choose a candidate. That decision will be taken today by the State Executive Committee, which comprises a host of members, including the statutory delegates to the National Convention. So I do not want to preempt them. These are the issues we are going to be discussing, and I'm sure that everybody will be guided, you know, by the circumstances in which we find ourselves today.
Anselm, on Wednesday, the Deputy National Chairman of the party, of your party, Senator Shuaibu, issued a statement in which he generally criticized Adams Ojezua, the chairman. And he made a point that most members of your party are disillusioned, they are perplexed, and that they are even likely to leave the party. And he said the method that the party wants to adopt with regard to the primaries is against the constitution of the party and against every other enabling laws that the party is bound to respect. Now, his target mainly is Adams Ojezua, the national chairman. And I know that the chairman of your party at the national level is from Edo State, and he also has issues with the governor. He doesn't even recognize you as chairman of the APC in Edo State. Now, what do you say to all of this? Is your party truly in disarray, as I allege, and is Adams Ojezua the problem?
Well, you know, this will be the second time that Senator Lawal Shaibu will be making a statement of concern. And in his second statement, which you referred to, he did allude to the fact that when he drew attention to some of the anomalies, people did not take him seriously. The party has had to pay dearly for ignoring his observations. At this point in time, he has come out again, perhaps for the last time, giving the leadership of our party the opportunity to correct what is, you know, going on. So the truth about it is, it's not a matter of the party being in disarray. I think it's just a matter of an individual who happens to occupy a high up position, abusing his office to a point where he may be putting the party in jeopardy. And that is what Senator Lawal Shaibu is saying. We have a set of rules called the Constitution, and it is the Constitution that is supreme. When you hear people say the party is supreme, the supremacy of the party is embedded in the Constitution. So if you have somebody in a position of authority and responsibility, and that person continues to ignore the tenets of the very Constitution, which is sworn. Yes, so when you have a situation like that, for instance, Adams Ojezua is currently on suspension. Questions have been raised as to whether actions he takes as national chairman, whether a person who has been suspended from membership, whose membership is on suspension, can continue to act as an officer of the association. Those issues arise, and these things will have, implications. In Edo State in particular, Adams Ojezua is part of the problem that we have. Can he then be a judge in his own cause to take steps to come and organize primaries in a place where he has vested interest? My answer is a clear no. So he would have to, excuse the process in order to save the party and preserve its integrity. That is the position that I think Senator Lawal Shaibu is taking. I agree. I also saw the statement made by our former national chairman, Chief John Odige Oyegu, who doesn't speak much, but from what he has said, you can tell very clearly that it is just a matter of honor and principles. I think Adams Ojezua should excuse the party in order for the party to heal. He has created so much problem for this party. We have lost so many states that we ought not to lose. You can imagine Zamfara, simply because he will not obey the law and even the tenets of our constitution, we lost Zamfara. After winning all the seats available, we lost everything. We lost in Rivers because against a court order, he went and conducted an exercise. And of course, we had no candidate in Rivers State. We lost Bayelsa after winning the election. What happened? That he neglected to do that which he ought to do. He knew the law, he knows the responsibility, the requirements, and yet arbitrarily they refuse to obey simple regulations and laws. And it has cost this party. This party has lost at least 3 states. And if we are not careful, if this situation in Edo and Ondo are not properly handled, I fear we may lose Edo and lose Ondo, not to popular vote, but to the excesses and negligence and recklessness of one single individual. I think this is one time when people have to realize that personal interest must give way to collective interest. Okay. And I believe the honorable thing for Adams Ojezua to do is to excuse the process.
Okay, but let's just take some facts here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong along the way. Now, the court overruled that previous case against Comrade Adams Ojezua, and at the end of the day, what you're saying here is you want him to excuse the process, but he is still acting as national chairman of the party. Therefore, he is the only one recognized by law to actually submit a name to INEC, to submit a candidate's name to INEC. So how do you respond to this, and how do you feel about this?
And then if I may add to that, before you answer, if I may add to that, if you look at your party's constitution, I guess Article 20, subsection 5, on page 76 of the APC constitution, is the National Executive Committee of your party that is empowered to oversee primaries in the various states. Now, how do you then say that the chairman of the party at the national level should excuse himself when he's empowered by the party's constitution to do so?
A member of an association who has been placed on suspension, for the period of that suspension, his membership is in abeyance. And therefore, actions he takes in the name of the party can be challenged. And that is dangerous. So it's a matter of honor, and it's a decision that he has to take. If he doesn't take it, then the leadership of the party have a responsibility to help him. Secondly, it is not true that the decision of the High Court was overruled by the Court of Appeal. What has simply happened is that there's an order that the judge made that he should excused himself pending the determination of that action. The Court of Appeal, hearing only his counsel, granted a stay pending the hearing of the motion on notice, which is still pending before the Court of Appeal. There is no guarantee that Ojezua will be let off by the Court of Appeal. What they have done is to give him what you may call a respite, a temporary respite. But you know, they say the law has long arms. It will still catch up. So in the interim, we have to play safe. We cannot afford to jeopardize the interest of the party because of the interest of an individual. And like you rightly said, the National Executive Committee is the one that has the power, not one officer. The National Executive Committee is made up of people close to 100. I am a member of that committee. So it is that committee that has the powers to supervise. The working committee will do that which the National Executive Committee has authorized. If the national chairman now does something contrary to what has been decided by the National Executive Committee, to that extent, he has overreached himself. And of course, he will be reversed.
Anselm, let me draw your attention to something. I don't agree with some of the things you have said. Now, what the court ruled is that the status quo should be maintained. And after that, the party tried to set up a reconciliation committee. And there was some form of reconciliation and intervention also by the president. Are you saying that the court having ruled that the status quo should be maintained, that Adams Oshiomhole cannot exercise authority as chairman of the party? If you say that, you will be contradicting the court. And then what is the status of the reconciliation within your party? Is there any hope that Obaseki will reconcile with Adams Oshiomhole before the primaries are held?
Court of Appeal did was to grant stay of execution of the order made by the court that Oshiomhole should step aside his duties pending the determination of the suit. The appeal itself has not been heard. The appeal Oshiomhole filed in the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal has not made a decision. They only granted an interim order to stay, nothing more.
Yeah, but I said they also said
nothing less.
The status quo should be maintained.
With regards to reconciliation, yes, we got I don't know what you mean by status quo. He asked for stay, and he got stay. That is a temporary relief.
Thank you very much. Right. Let's go back to discussing a few issues around the elections holding. Now, when we interviewed Mr. Festus Okoye on this show from INEC, he did state that the continuous voters registration exercise is not going to hold, which means that automatically a lot of people are going to be disenfranchised, mainly those who have just turned 18 and want to vote in the upcoming elections. Do you think that this is fair? And how does your party feel about the fact that, of course, continuous voters registration exercise is now not going to hold?
Well, you know that as far as I know, the issue of registration is supposed to be a continuous exercise, really. A citizen of this country who attains the age of 18 should be able to walk into INEC office and seek registration. Registration update has been the custom, in normal times. But times are not normal now. With the COVID-19 pandemic, extraordinary measures have had to be taken by government at the federal and state levels. And that raises very strong, issues to support the fact that INEC wishes to, as much as possible, avoid crowding in public places. Perhaps that may have occasioned the decision that they have made. Unfortunately, a number of people are going to be there. So as I was saying, I think we are in extraordinary times, and perhaps they were guided by those considerations. Besides, they have the constitutional duty, and they have the powers. So I may not be able to criticize them so much, given the circumstances.
Well, quickly, we have just about less than 2 minutes to go. Quickly, Chief Oyegun, whom you referred to earlier, said that the governors of Edo and Ondo have done creditably well and that they should be given the offer of first refusal. What exactly has Obaseki done in Edo State to deserve that?
Obaseki has introduced reform and innovation and activities in the last 3.5 years indicate that he wishes to deepen the economy of Edo in such a manner that Edo can stand on its own without the luxury of having to go to Abuja to get allocation cap in hand. And all his activities, his economic policies, his innovation in education, which has become legendary, even beyond the shores of Nigeria. People have come from Rwanda, from Sierra Leone, from Lagos, from Ekiti, from different places to come and understudy what we are doing in the basic education sector we call Edo Best. He has introduced civility into governance.
Well,
prior to this time, it was as if Edo was being run by thugs.
Well, thank you very much, Anselm Ojezua. We wish we had more time and that the technical connection was better.
On the part of...
Yes, thank you very much, Anselm Ojezua.